this is not a party political issue, or it shouldn't be. It should be one that we should come together and try to find the right ways forward. I raised it with Boris Johnson when I met him shortly after he became Prime Minister, and he told me then that he would consider carefully the argument that Scotland was making. Just to be clear about what we're proposing fundamentally that when we tackle the possession and consumption of drugs, we should do it as a public health issue, not as a criminal justice issue. That's the way to get the best treatment and support to people, and often it's the criminal justice issues that get in the way of providing the best treatment, and we want to change that.
The UK government wants to appear tough on drugs.
Absolutely.
They're not going to give you the powers to decriminalise.
I'm not suggesting that this is going to be straightforward to negotiate with the UK government. The conference yesterday, though, set out a very clear policy position of the SNP. I think it's the right policy position. And as we, in the task force we've set up, as we look at how we use our existing powers and our existing resources to tackle the drugs crisis, and in particular to reduce deaths from drugs, we will also continue to progress that argument with the UK government.
SNP may have to prop up a Labour government in the not too distant future. Could this be a red line? Could this be something, the powers that you want on the basis?
I'm very anxious that we don't take the issue around drugs into, if we can avoid it, overtly party political space. I think particularly in Scotland we really do face a public health emergency on this, so we will try to keep the discussions here constructive and keep them out of politics as much as possible, but we would want to progress that discussion with whoever the inhabitant of Downing Street happened to be at any time.
So you would, if you were supporting a Labour government, you would talk about devolving drugs?
Of course we would do that, just as we're trying to progress that with the current government.
Okay, when it comes to the second independence referendum, the UK government would have to approve one under the plans that you want to see to make that happen. What makes you think they'll ultimately say yes to a second independence referendum?
I think you can see the position starting to crack already, and over the summer we heard from Jeremy Corbyn, John McDonnell about being open to it. I think even within the Conservatives you hear much more about the timing of a second referendum rather than the principle of it. A few weeks ago Richard Leonard, the Scottish Labour leader, was asking me about what the question would be in a second independence referendum. Everybody knows there's going to be a second independence referendum.
Ruled it out.
Well, look, public opinion is rallying behind it. Public opinion is increasing behind independence. I don't think the position of Boris Johnson or any Westminster leader that's seeking to stand in the way of Scotland's right to choose is sustainable, and I don't think it will prove to be.
Talking of more people opting for independence, poll out recently, polling at about 50%. Boris Johnson number 10, a no-deal Brexit potentially weeks away. Why is it only 50%?
Oh, for goodness sake, if it was sitting here at lower than it had been in 2014, you would be asking me that. This is record polling for independence, and the independence campaign is the one with momentum. We see the argument strengthening, we see public support strengthening. So no matter how hard you try, you're not going to make me at my party conference sit here and sound depressed about having 50% support for independence.
Surely the conditions are more fertile than they'll ever be.
I think we will see support continue to rise. People think about these things deeply. They're right to. These are big decisions, and unlike the Brexit decision, I want these decisions always to be informed with people thinking deeply about them, and I think that's what happens in Scotland. And as people do think about them and look at the alternative, which has been taken out of the EU against our will, with all the damage that will do, I think we will see support for independence continue to rise.
An independence referendum next year, is that the last one?
Well, I'm confident we'll win it and that Scotland will become independent. I am confident that we will become independent next year, so I'm going to stick to we'll win on the second referendum.